Welcome to another episode of my review series titled Is It Good? Today we are going to be looking at Witt Lowry's newest project, I Could Not Plan This. Now, Jesus. Now, I was a really big fan of Dreaming With Our Eyes Open, and I feel he is a very underrated rapper. So what did I think of this project? Let's talk about it.
I'm drowning out my problems, feel my pain no more. I'm going numb. Hey, I hope you see what you've done to me. I'm going numb.
Now, I'm gonna come right out with it and say I feel very mixed on this album and I didn't love it like I thought I would. But we're gonna start things off by talking about what I did like of the album, and we're gonna start off with the positives. And one thing I really noticed on this album is that Witt's production has really improved lately. There were very few beats on here that I disliked. Blood in the Water has a fantastic beat, but the first one that really struck me as being great was the one for Wishing Wells.
When I was younger, wish for girls like you and Wishing Wells.
I love that kind of triumphant brass sound, and it's interesting to hear Witt rap over something that has real hit potential. He even has delivery on that track that sounds very similar to Drake. I was interested by it. I really like that because that's something new from Witt, and that's really what I wanted to hear more of throughout this album, something new from him, but we'll talk a bit about that later. Some of the beats for the more emotional tracks are pretty good too. I really like the one for the song Phone, which actually, like, considering the title of the track and what it's about, it actually incorporates, like, the kind of ringing of a phone sound into the hook. And I didn't catch it at first, but, like, the second time I listened with my proper headphones on, I caught the sound of, like, a phone ringing during the hook, and it was really cool to hear that sound just subtly put in there. And the beat for Movies was also pretty great too. There are very few beats on here that I didn't like. Honestly, this album overall is just a sonical improvement from Witt's previous releases. It just, from a sound perspective, everything sounds better. Another thing that I want to mention that I really like on this project, and that I really like as Witt as an artist overall, because it's something he does a lot, is the emotion that he pours out through his vocals. He puts a lot of inflection into his vocals to make you really feel the way he feels. And while sometimes it can feel like his voice is like cracking a bit too much, you know, he gets really into kind of almost like screaming territory. Not screaming, it's almost like Eminem shouting, but amplify it a bit. It gets kind of to that territory, but most of the time it's really good. And the best example I can think of this is on Last Letter, which is one of the biggest highlights on this album for me. Probably the best track on this album is Last Letter. It's a song dedicated to his dad who passed away last year, or 2 years ago. It was in October 2015. It's a really beautiful track, basically. Really sad sounding and heartbreaking, and he really conveys that through his delivery.
I wish I told you everything before you left. I won't forget the day that they found the growth in your chest. The cancer took a hold of your body and then it spread. I talk to you more now than I ever did. I'm a mess.
The emotion on that song genuinely almost brought me to tears. It is a great track. Witt definitely knows how to utilize his voice. But now, after saying all that, that does bring me to the biggest negative I have about this album, and it really, really drags it down for me. And that is that it sounds too similar in terms of subject matter to previous projects, and even within this album itself, the subject matter doesn't change much between tracks. Now, there's pretty much like three main things I think I could identify that Witt raps about, that he has rapped about before, and those things are hating mumble rap, he mentions that quite a bit. I mean, fair enough, but he mentions it quite a bit. Relationships with girls, and how he's underrated. And they're all great subjects to rap about, but he's done it a bit, like, too much by this point, too frequently. Especially talking about girls. He does that on this album ad nauseum. And it's funny because on the track Blood on the Water, he has a line specifically about this. He says,
different, that makes you not different. They say I just rap about women. That's coming from lames who just never get women. The best is a giving.
The irony of that is that he kinda does talk about girls a bit too much in this album. I actually counted it up myself, and 9 out of the 15 tracks on here are about relationships. 9 out of the 15 tracks, most of them being about broken relationships. Actually, I think pretty much all of them are. And while that's okay to listen to, and I really appreciate the fact he's putting his feelings out there, 9 out of 15 tracks is a lot. And it really almost killed this album for me. I wanted to at least hear a new spin on his broken relationship story, but we really didn't get it. He usually has quite kind of like relatable lines about relationships, but here there was only a couple of those, and some sounded like he'd already used them before, some verging on being Tumblr quotes, which is not good. The best parts of this album are where he's talking about his dad. The worst parts of the album are where he's talking about girls. I just feel like he said everything he can say on the subject so far. Also, as a final point, he kinda seems mad at Lil Uzi Vert for stealing his beat on Uzi's song Erase Your Social, which Witt Lowry used before on his Kindest Regards mixtape. I don't really see that as stealing. The producers just happened to use the same sample. Whether it was deliberate or not, it's not like he wasn't allowed to do it. So I don't really see that as stealing. However, he did have a pretty funny line about it on Care Too Much, and that did make me laugh.
True, they say, lately I just love Uzi. I bump his shit like with all my roomies. I shake my ass to his music too, see, Erase Your Social, it was almost too deep. Did you just say that he bit off Witt? That can't be true because Witt is shit. Someone grab my phone, I need to Google this.
So overall, how do I feel about this album? Well, it could have been better. There were a lot of tracks, or at least a few tracks that I really liked on here, but towards the end of it, I was just begging him to stop talking about relationships, because it really makes the tracks lose their identity as singular songs when they have the same subject matter. The beats could sound different, the hooks can sound different, but if he's talking about the same stuff, that's really gonna show through. Now, I think I would have loved this album like 2 years ago when I was 16 or 17. I really would have enjoyed it then when I was still in school. I feel like this is, that Witt's music is more kind of directed towards high school students. That's not a diss towards him or anything, because like I said, I really like Witt and I think he's super underrated, but I definitely would have like said this album was amazing if I was 16 or 17, I reckon. That being said, there were still a few tracks I enjoyed, and I do like that his sound overall is getting better with each album. It was hard for me to come up with a rating for this one, but I'm gonna give Witt a 6.8 out of 10 for I Could Not Plan This. I was really close to giving it a 7, but I didn't feel like it delivered enough for me to go up to that bar yet, so 6.8 out of 10. I still do love Witt though, and I would definitely recommend listening to Dreaming With Our Eyes Open if you haven't heard that project yet. Well guys, that is going to be it for the Is It Good video today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Not sure what albums I'm going to do next in this series, just whatever comes out soon. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comments below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe to see more content like this. I have a new list on Eminem coming tomorrow, so that should be exciting. I love doing Eminem lists. A lot of you guys love when I do Eminem lists, and that's what you're going to get tomorrow. So I hope you guys are all looking forward to it. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed recently, because there's been a big influx of subscribers recently, which I really appreciate. Probably to do with the fact that I'm actually uploading again. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll hopefully see you all in the next one. And it's your boy, CDTVProductions, signing out.